Hi, Bowen. Very good morning. Let me warmly welcome you to this webinar series by Glenmore Global Resources. Glenmore is a Sri Lankan organization which provides end-to-end HR solutions, including training, executive and transition coaching, and counseling services. Glenmore has strategic partnerships with Harrison's Assessments, the psychometric assessment provider, and Workplace Options, WPO USA. WPO Workplace Options is the world's largest privately owned and independent provider of integrated employee well-being solutions. It serves 65 million employees, 100,000 organizations in over 200 countries and territories across the globe. So today's session is on Stay Positive in Crisis Times. This is the first of a series of programs Glenmore intends to conduct for you. If you have any questions, please use the chat box below as we mute the microphones, or you can text to 0768 031 031. I read it again, 0768 031 031. Or you can email to info@glenmore.lk. info@glenmore.lk. For this session, we invited a very special personality, maybe the best inspirational speaker in the country, undoubtedly the service guru we have, who has been highly commended by the world's best Ron Kaufman. It is Dhammika Kalapuge. Ayubowan Dhammika.
Ayubowan.
So Dhammika, we are now in a very challenging time. We have never experienced a situation like this. How do you look at this situation, Dhammika? Or what should we do? Are we to cry? Are we to laugh? How do we look at this? How do we make it positive, this situation, Dhammika?
Okay, right. Ayubowan to everybody who is participating in this webinar. And stay positive in crisis times. And that's what I'm going to discuss during the next hour. So I need not go into detail the impact the COVID had created to us. And mainly it had impacted our lives, jobs, family, and entities. Now, if you look at it, by and large, COVID had created a problem globally to its economics, and then the socially, politically, technologically had created problems. Now, if you look at the latest statistics, as at last night, you find that about nearly 2.9 million people have got infected with this virus, and over about 200,000 deaths globally, whereas Sri Lanka, it's 452, and then we are managing with about 7 deaths for the last 2 weeks, so that's a good sign. All what I have to say is that this epidemic had now become a pandemic, making everybody's life so pathetic. So what should we do about it? And stay positive in crisis times. That's what I'm trying to discuss during the next hour. Now, crisis times, we have gone through enough in this country. They are not new to us. And if you look at over the last 2 decades, the crisis, what we had gone through, the main thing that we can take into consideration is year 2004, the tsunami. At that time, we were being rated as the best managed country within a short period of time. Now, to quote an example, you know how powerful the tsunami was. This particular train that was traveling down south, and this locomotive engine, it toppled upside down. And so this engine was almost about 50 years old. Its manufacturers, the Canadian company, was surprised over 2 things. That number one is the power of the wave, the tsunami wave, to put an engine like this upside down. And the other thing is, this is perhaps in their records, the engine that we had been using in any country for that matter for over 45 years. So they were surprised over that. Now, when this damage took place, what happened? That really the authorities wanted to put the rail track back. And when they discussed this assignment with a foreign party, they said it might take about minimum about 6 months, whereas our engineers were capable enough in putting the rail track back within just about 58 days, and it was up and running. And more than anything, even they rectified this engine, and it was running until recently. The next event, the crisis, as you all know, we know that the war that was lasting for about, or rather nearly about 3 decades, it was an unwinnable war, which we won. So we had been great over the past, if you look at the crisis situation. In addition to that, all of you know that we are a country who are heavily debted. But still for all, we have a very good track record that we had been maintaining our debt, the settlements promptly, both domestic and foreign. Now, this crisis, what we are facing globally as well as it had impacted to Sri Lanka, what are we going to do with this? This virus, which is a germ, what should we do about it with our capabilities, our positiveness? How are we going to make it a gem? Now, if you look at these two words, the germ and the gem, the difference is only the R in spelling. But this R, if you look at it, it is a kind of a serious R. I would say it is the ruining factor. Now, what has it done by and large, this germ? It has created a lot of anxiety, agitation, and animosity amongst us. So now, what are we to do about it is the next question. Now, we are facing a crisis. Now, if you look at the two characters, what the Chinese often use is, they say wei ichi. Now, in Chinese, if you just read these two letters, they say it's wei ichi. What does wei ichi stands for? Danger is an opportunity. Danger is an opportunity. So we are facing a crisis, how well that we could consider it as an opportunity and see what kind of gains we can get out of it. And by facing this crisis positively, what things that we can achieve. Now, this crisis, if you look at, it had created a lot of stress amongst every one of us. Now, this is a saying that I really want to share with you. Just ponder on this saying for a moment. Make the stress the spice of your life and not the kiss of your death. Right. In that light, what should we do? Now, there are controllable factors that are created from this COVID-19 and uncontrollable factors as well. The controllable factors are our lives, the jobs, the family, entities, what things we can do for those. Now we find we have to beat this virus. We got to bring about a kind of optimism, first of all. And with that optimism, we have to overcome the challenges that we are facing. And then when we are facing those challenges, we must consider there are ample opportunities just in front of us. And to do so, we have to get ourselves organized. So let me discuss about how well that we could do this. Now, if you look at this optimism for an individual and to overcome them, what should we do and what are the opportunities, what we are going to face, and then how can we get ourselves organized? Now look at this optimism. With that optimism, we'll try ways and means of overcoming this. And then there are in the process, you will find opportunities. And then, okay, get ourselves organized to do so. And then thereafter, when you may be successful here, once you get yourself organized, but if by chance, if you find that you are not going to get the derived or the anticipated result, what are you going to do about it? So probably could be, you may have to do some remedies, rectification. Again, with optimism, the cycle works. Now, in the process, what I'm going to do is, as the brochure rightly said, I'm going to talk to you about 5 letters, A, B, C, D, E. What things that we can do to get over this problem, this crisis, and face the challenges with a lot of confidence and to move forward. Now, the first letter A is align yourself. Now, align yourself, what it means is ability to accept and then adjust. So we got to align ourselves. Now, in the process, I'm going to talk to you about 2 points. Number 1 is face the reality. Now, we know that this virus had harmed the entire world. So you got to face the reality. And this virus is going to lack us so many things. What are they? Number 1, we are in a lockdown. Now for about, we are into the 4th or the 5th week, we are in this lockdown. And in the process, what has happened is now accessibility had become somewhat limited. And this had virtually impacted every one of us for our cash flows. And then finally, this is going to knock down ourselves, our entities, and then societies, by and large, the countries. Now, what should we do about it? We got to face this reality. There's nothing that you and I could do for this, lack the elements what I've been discussing. Now, what should we do about it? And interestingly, when this happened the first week itself, there was a senior architect called Mr. Jayanta Pereira, and he was sharing some thoughts with me. He said, Dhammika, people are going to suffer not having cash in their hands. Now, what are we going to do? The economy must function. So first of all, the cash, people must get cash, and organizations would find it difficult to settle salaries. So he was sharing this wonderful idea. He said, the central bank must take an initiative that would be that whatever the monies that had been collected from the staff or the employees in the form of EPF, they must give it as a loan back to people, so that what people can do is with that, or maybe in the form of a loan or whatever it is, they get monies to hand, because organizations, when they can't pay, central bank come in, and then from the employees' own EPF money itself, if they can give a kind of a contribution back, so that they can start using. You know, when the money started using, the production will take place. Then it's a kind of a cycle that we go back to the basic economics. So this cycle works. So in the process, that this is a wonderful idea, and subsequently, this has been announced by the government as well. And to take a kind of a face the reality. Now, it's a very interesting thing that when I was making a presentation overseas, when I was talking about the positivity, guy said, okay, a person who was there in the audience, he said that, okay, there's a thing called positivity and a negativity, but there's a thing called a reality. So we got to understand the reality. Though, however much we really want to be positive, that we got to face the reality with the lack element that I was talking before. So face the reality. We cannot do away or go away, run away with the reality. And to quote yet another example of somewhat emotional, which related to COVID. You know, this father, you may have heard of him. Now this priest, Italian priest, what happened? He was on a ventilator, and that ventilator was allocated to him. He was 72 years old, but he saw a young boy, young youth, who was suffering with the same sickness. At that moment of time, he was facing the reality. He perhaps thought that, okay, I have lived my life enough, so let me disconnect myself with this ventilator and give it to this young boy. And apparently this father did that. So with a lot of confidence, he even sacrificed by facing the reality. The second element that I want to discuss with you, underline yourself, is about when you can't change the condition, change the mindset. You know, there are instances in life we really cannot change the condition. If you cannot change the condition, all what you got to do is change the mindset. Just take an example that, okay, you are attending a meeting. You're going for a meeting. Now this morning, now we experience this with the technology. So what happened now? Technology started giving some problems. So likewise, when you are going for a meeting, assume that you are faced with a severe traffic block. There's nothing that you can do about it. And its vehicles are not moving, but you have to be at the meeting place, the location on time. But you know that very well, this traffic block is not letting you get there on time. So you got off from the vehicle, you saw a huge container broken on the middle of the road. Now, can you change the condition? Surely you can't. So if you can't change the condition, what you have to do is change the mindset. Likewise, even when this morning, when we face this technical problem, because when we rehearse it, everything was fine. But when we face it, all what we had to do was, three of us, I mean, we really, okay, changed our mindset and then did our best to say that, okay, we go ahead with this. So now you are experiencing this. Now the change the condition, if you can't change the condition, change the mindset. And to do that, there is a very good example at this moment of time that we could quote. That is about work from home, which had increasingly becoming popular. We call it WFH. Now, when you change the mindset, there are certain times that you may have to find certain tool sets. And when you change the mindset and when you find the tool set, again, you can adjust the condition the way how you want it. And what is these tools? Now, if you take the work from home, the tools that are needed, number one is the technology. Do we have the right IT support to do that? The connection and the data, all that. And objective. When you work from home, when you're working from home, you've got to be clear with the kind of objective, that what is it that you really want to achieve at the end of the day. Then, okay, get yourself organized. Just because you are working from home, don't take life easy. Get into a proper attire, have a timetable prepared, and then take the needed breaks, and then set things to be done, a list, and then get yourself properly organized and then do it. Then only you can get the best out of it. And then you need to liaise with people, because when you're working in isolation, it's somewhat awful. So that you've got to liaise with people every now and then. And maybe for certain approvals, all that, you may have to liaise with your superiors, or probably could be on and off to break the monotony. You may have to speak to somebody and be social as well. And it's a very crucial thing that you got to think at this moment of time when you're working from home, that it's somewhat, it's tedious because the first time that we are getting used to it. So therefore that on and off, take a break and then maybe talk to your family members and then okay, support whatever the way that they can, and so that you break the monotony and then so it becomes interesting. And yet to take another example, increasingly we find, since we cannot move about these days, that the vendors have to take goods to residents, and you call it take stores home. Now, this is a new concept. Now, it's increasingly becoming very, very popular. And many entities, even supermarkets for that matter, now they are having their mobile supermarkets, and the banks have already been practicing it now. Intensely, they are practicing the mobile ATM machines, and then we got to get used to it. Now, take stores from home, and you need a lab for that. What is it? Logistics got to be arranged. And then in addition to that, probably could be awareness got to be created. When are we coming to your location? And the timing, all that got to be informed. And proper planning has to be done to see that if you take a kind of an area that everybody gets covered. So now these are interesting examples, what we can do to align ourselves. When you can't change the condition, how well that we could change the mindset. I'm getting into the next factor, the A we have covered, and the next is the B. That is brilliant with the basics, that go back to your roots. Understand your core competence. I want you to understand that every one of us who are born to this world, we are born with a talent. Nature never creates a single human being to this world without a talent. And in its different religions, you can explain it in different ways. In Buddhism, we call it sansara purudha, that what you bring from birth after birth. And other religions, we say it's God-given gift. And then in biology, you say it's in your genes. We got to understand that we all have a core competence inherited in us, and how well, to what extent that we can use it individually. Even organizations do have a thing called a core competence. Now, last night, I happened to receive this email from Hamidias, and understanding their core competence, and they are gent tailoring a department and the leading stores in the country. You know what they have done? They have come out with shirts, and what matches to the shirt, they have come out with a kind of a mask. Now, you can see that this is the mail that I got yesterday. So now, time to come, what will happen is wearing a mask will be a kind of a common thing, because we really do not know when this COVID-19 will come to an end. And it will be a normal thing. Seeing a person with a mask will be a normal mask with a normal thing. So that what is needed here is that see how creatively they use their core competence and then came out with a mask. And then here where you find that with their Envoy, the mentioned stores, now they are starting up the home delivery service too. So the next is the be brilliant with the basics. What can you do along with what you are really good at? Now, we are really good at something, and here where that I really want to share something very interesting with what Dr. Hans Vijay Surya had said some time back. And he says, more the uncertainty, greater the opportunity. More the uncertainty, greater the opportunity. We see many people are doing it these days, and many entities, organizations are doing it nowadays. And the best example I could quote is Lasana Flora, you know, the leading floral company we have in this country. Now, they have their farms, they have their nurseries in our country, and they get fresh flowers and they sell. Now, when the founder, chairman, Dr. Lasantha Malawiya, when he moment realized that the lockdown is coming, now they do have a very good freezer feed, and they have the freezer store capacity. And in addition to that, they know the routes well, they know the deliveries, they are really good at it, the flower deliveries. And apart from that, they are an online delivery company, so they have their IT base and the support as well. So what did he immediately do with the lockdown? He decided, use our fleet, we use our storing capacity. In addition to that, use our people and the IT support to start up a home delivery service of vegetables, because nobody may need flowers at a time like this. So that, okay, you send vegetables. So what did he do in the process? Got everything organized, got the needed permission, the passes arranged, and he started this delivery service, which had become very successful. Nobody's there to buy flowers, but you cannot stop flowers blooming. It is happening. Now, what are they doing right now? The flowers that are blooming, Those flowers now, they are even delivering with the special vegetable packs. When you order vegetable pack for near about 1,000 rupees, you get a flower bouquet free. So now see, you just, this opportunity to what extent they had been using it. So there are so many things that you can do. And in the process is doing a great social service, bridging the gap between the farmer and the consumer. So what can you do along with what you have? So more the uncertainty, greater the opportunity. And the third C, what I really want to cover up with you is creative thinking. Crisis and urgency bring superhuman innovation and action. And how can one be creative? Just think about it. Now here we are. Human beings are far more superior than what we think we are. We are only as big as the challenges we accept. So now we've got to understand the fact that we are very much superior than what we think. If you look at the world, every 1.5 minutes, there's a new innovation coming in. Generally, the accepted fact is that century comes within 100 years. Now you know the innovation do take place at a faster speed. The century had become very much shorter. Now they say that whatever the learning, whatever the innovations you have, 15% of them become obsolete in an annual basis. So they say that now the century comes in every 7 years. Everything that is invented to this world are being invented by people who are living on the earth. So it shows us human beings are far more superior than what they think they are. And at the same time, then we are only as the big as the challenges we accept. So now if you take a smaller challenge, you can stretch yourself only up to that much. If you take a bigger challenge, you can stretch yourself up to that much. Now, I found a very interesting article on the 24th of April in one of the Harvard Business Review articles that executives and boards avoid these missteps in a crisis. There it is said that necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention. You know, interestingly, what happened was in Japan, that Akira Morita, that's an interesting life story. 1945, when the war came to an end, Nakia Morita was a naval officer who lost his job. This young boy was thinking, what am I to do to live? Now he was wondering, what can we do? We got to innovate something. Now, what can we innovate? He realized that we got to innovate something that has fast moving. So what is it? The food. People need food. He decided rice is the food of Japanese and people eat rice. So what we got to do is, okay, let me produce rice. But he realized to produce rice, you need what? Field, paddy field, which he didn't have. Then he realized, okay, let somebody else produce rice. Let me find out a way to cook rice. So if you look at the Sony's, the first innovation was a rice cooker. Then he was thinking, okay, how am I to produce this rice cooker? He brought a very interesting concept and a philosophy. He said, anybody can be innovative if his life depends on it. I repeat it. Anybody can be innovative if his life depends on it. Okay, I'm going to produce this rice cooker, and to produce rice cooker, you need steel, iron. But Japan is a country where you don't have them. Then he was wondering what to do. Then he realized, he went back to his statement again, anybody can be innovative if his life depends on it. He realized, over the last couple of months, American warplanes came to bomb Japan, and they were bringing extra fuel tanks along with the wings. So what happened was, when the flights were in the air having bombed Japan, they refueled their wings, right, with those extra fuel tanks that were tagged to the wings, and they discharged all those tanks to Japanese mountains and went back. So he realized, we find empty fuel tanks, processed steel in Japanese mountains, but how to find them? Again, he went back to his concept. Anybody can be innovative if his life depends on it. So what happened? He found a couple of friends, climbed those mountains, found those iron tanks, empty tanks, brought them, got the sheets, and he made the rice cooker. And though it was a flop subsequently, but the Sony's, the first innovation was a rice cooker. The second, what he did was the tape, the Sony tapes. What he did was, he just wanted to have these tapes made. He just took paper and then cut them into pieces, right? And then he just got the strips using his hands, then pasted them and then made them. So because his philosophy all the time was that, going back to what he said, anybody can be innovative if his life depends on it. Okay, then how can we be innovative? creatively, how can we think things? And ways and means of adding value. Through that, you can become creative. And we found a very good example where the famous the chef or Dr. Publis at Mount Lavinia Hotel, what did they do? Just prior to the New Year season, and realized that people are unable to make the traditional food what they used to make for New Year. So they came out with this simple solution for it. You know, just it was announced, and within about 6 hours of time, they could cope up the demand. So ways and means of adding value. Now, as you all know that Sri Lanka, we are not that much of a kind of a agri-based economy. And we import a lot of food from outside. And now the time has come, we have to be self-sufficient with food. Now, in Sri Lanka, the problem what we have is some of the foods what we, or the items, the vegetables or whatever the perishables we produce, the transportation, we lose about over 40%. Now, what are we to do about it? Now, we will have an agri-based, or we will call it a Vaga Sangramya, or an agri-based economy coming in the near future. Now, the transportation, are there ways and means of just reducing the waste? How creatively we can find a solution to it? Now, you would see if you just take this watermelon, this fruit. Now, we get it in the first form. And in the process, a lot goes waste, get damaged. Now, see what Taiwan had done. They get it as a squarish shape. What do they do for that? When the fruit is growing, they go and fix a box to the fruit. So the fruit will grow to the shape of the box. Now, when you have it in that form, transportation is easy. It's very much presentable. And then the wastage is less. And see how well that we could do this. So creative thinking, we got to bring about at a time like this. And in a crisis time, how well that we can be creative. And there are enormous ways this can be done. And this C is a very crucial word that you got to think. And let's come to the next, the D, dedicate towards our task. That be fully focused. Now, how can we do this? Understand the priorities. We got to be very clear with our priorities at a time like this. And here where I just want to share a saying with you, saying that the main thing is to keep the main thing as the main thing at a time like this. Now, most often what happens is, during a crisis time, we are trying to do so many things one at the same time, and finally we end up achieving nothing. So the main thing is to keep the main thing as the main thing. So that is very much important at a time like this. Maybe that so many ideas people will come and give you, but okay, to think what exactly you can do it. What is your core competence? Understand what is the exact requirement with the marketplace that you can fulfill with your core competence, and accordingly do that. So the main thing is to keep the main thing as the main thing. The next is you need devotion 150% for whatever the things you do during this time. Your devotion got to be 150%. And in the process, I say, help yourself to be a value-adding person. Whatever you do, be a value-adding person. Help. So what is that you are going to do? First of all, you got to take 150% care of your health. Dedicate yourself towards health, because we got to be healthy before we do anything. And then all the government rules, the regulations that they have set up, follow them proper. Take care of yourself. And you got to have an eagerness to know what's happening in and around you, because that will open your eyes for the opportunities that are around you and what is really happening. Think about it. And then loneliness. You may feel loneliness when you are locked down, and then all kind of these problems what we are facing right now. How are we to get out of it? And what should we do about it? You got to break this loneliness. So that help yourself by talking to others, as I told before, listen to some music, maybe doing a little bit of meditation, all that. And then whatever you do, always have a purpose in mind. Never ever do anything for the sake of doing it. Have a purpose. In the process, what you got to do is you got to have your focus, and then you got to put your energy accordingly. When you have a higher purpose, higher focus, and when you have a higher focus and then a higher energy, you become purposeful. And then in addition to that, whatever you do, always see how we could help each other, that by devoting yourself 150%. Then we get into the last E, the emotional connection. And what are we going to cover up here? Bring the heart and the soul in whatever the things that you do. Understand the big picture. Understand the big picture. Now, I'm going to give you a very good example here. Now, whatever you do during a time like this, you got to have the big picture in your mind. What is it that it's going to do to my life, my job, my entity, my society, by and large the country? The best example that I can quote you is, Americans, they are the ones who went to the moon first. Now, how did they get there first? From their mind, not the foot, the first by mind. Now, US, John F. Kennedy, when he was appointed as the president of US, in 1961 May, he happened to address NASA Center scientists. And what did he tell the NASA Center scientists? He said that this decade is going to be very much crucial for the mankind. During this decade, we must send a man to the moon and must get him back home safe. So the first man who is going to land on the moon is going to be none other than an American. So that was the vision that he sounded to the scientists of NASA Center. Now what happened? After saying this, few months' time, he visited NASA Center. Then he found, when he visited NASA Center, there was a guy who was mopping the floor, the janitorial guy who was mopping the floor. He just asked that guy, "Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy. What are you doing?" And you know the reply of this guy, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping to put an American to the moon." Now see, even the guy who was mopping the floor, he had the big picture clear. Though he was doing a little job, but he had the big picture clear. He's contributing whatever the way he could to see that American would land on the moon first. And then the next thing is, you got to have a kind of an emotional connection for your mission. Whatever you do, enjoy everything what you do. Now we found the first sick patient in Sri Lanka, the Chinese lady. And she was given utmost care, looked after her. And she was considered as a VIP and did whatever we could, the authority, and finally managed to save that life. What happened was, in the process, she was being sent back. And Chinese government really appreciated this. And the minister, health minister, hugged this lady, and it was not hugging the lady, had a much more meaning than that. It was embracing a country, whereas Chinese really, really appreciated. So everybody, the authorities who were involved in it, they had the big picture clear in their mind. And in addition to that, they enjoyed everything what they did. And risking our lives, the lives of these people. And they went to Wuhan to bring down those 36 students back to Sri Lanka. And finally, when they were talking, the TV interview, they said that they really enjoyed their mission. They were quite bold to do that because they had emotional connection. There are people whom we got to bring them back and to do the needful. Then from that ship, taking this chef off, it's one life, but that was so important to our country. And we had emotional connection. And not only that person, and then there were two other foreigners, one lady who had got a heart attack and the husband, two was taken away from the ship and given the needed treatment and recovered their life. And see what our forces are doing at a time like this with their emotional connection. They are enjoying everything what they do. And you must have seen and heard the kind of comments, what people are making about the kind of service, what is being rendered from those quarantine centers. Even this lady who is cleaning the road, at this moment of time, doing a very big, great service. Now, in the UK Parliament, one of the members was making a statement the other day. He said, this sickness had taught us so many things. And one of the learnings is that all these days, some of the workers whom we didn't saw or considered as important, we realized how valuable their services are. The road cleaner, the attendant who is working in a hospital, the vendor, the guy who delivers stuff to your residence, and then the frontliners who are doing everything possible to save lives of people. And then said that how important their service is because they are emotionally connected and doing the needful. And in fact, this British Parliament, the member asked a question, who is important at a moment like this? It is the billionaire fund manager or these people who are at the front line at this moment of time and doing this service. And of course, everybody screamed and said, the frontliners who are in the field and doing a noble job. So that emotional connection. Now, I had been talking to you about 5 A, B, C, D, E, aligning yourself, be brilliant with your basic, C, creative, and D, dedicate yourself fullest, and the E, emotional connection. I thought at this moment of time to share a kind of a success story a person who used ABCDE into practice, and today he has achieved greatness. And all this happened in the recent past. And I happened to meet this guy 2 weeks ago. I thought it is crucially important to share this story. It has a kind of a relevance to our lives, and there is a learning what we can get from this person's life, and to be positive in crisis times. And I will tell about this person's name and the details more as we go along. And this person was quite a successful person who was working for airlines. And he had a fantastic career, and he was a very good service-oriented guy, and he was a very good trainer too. When he had a senior position in one of the leading airlines, he was stationed overseas, and he had 3 sons and who were growing at that moment of time. So he decided to quit the job, and he wanted to come back to Sri Lanka and to live life along with the children and to guide them and to educate them and to be with them. And so he found a job here. But after a while, he realized with the kind of obligations that he had to fulfill, the remuneration or the perks what he was getting from this job was not good enough. So then thereafter, what did he do? He decided to go back to the same job in the Middle East, the flying, and then he got there. And then he was working as a purser again, that airline. And while he was working there, somebody offered him a much more lucrative job than that, which he decided to accept because he had a lot of talent in him to do so. But apparently that company bankrupt. He couldn't find a job there anymore, and then he came back to Sri Lanka. And then he never got a job to fulfill or to earn money to fulfill his requirement. Children were growing. It was a very big obligation that he had to fulfill. Look after the children, look after the home front, all that. Now, day by day, his economic condition was going down and so many problems he had to face. But I found each time when I was talking to him that he was aligning himself, and he went back to his basics, and he was creative, and he dedicated himself, and he enjoyed everything what he did, and then achieved greatness. Now, what did he do when he was doing nothing? He apparently aligned himself, ability to accept and adjust himself. Right now, what happened was, it's a reality that he cannot run away. He cannot leave the family and run away. He has to face it. And then what did he do? The car he had at that moment of time, he sold to put his son to the school. And he started traveling maybe in 3-wheelers or by bus. So he has to adjust himself accordingly, and he aligned himself to educate his children. And number 2 is what he did was, he decided that he got to be brilliant with his basics. He went back to his roots. He was really good in journalism. So he thought that, let me start writing articles to the sports page. And in addition to that, little assignments, what he got, he decided, okay, let me just train staff and then try to earn whatever possible. Okay, see, he started creatively thinking, and what things that I could do creatively. And in the process, with the kind of training the little training what he was doing, he went and started educating blind and deaf people to accept jobs in certain organizations, and then ex-forces staff to organize, to go and train them. And then in addition to that, maybe that some of the classes, the school leavers or the university leavers, the people who are leaving the universities and the schools, he went and taught them how to, in the corporate sector, how to get yourself adjusted and do your best. In a very little way, he was doing this creatively. And what he did was, he dedicated himself fullest for the job what he was doing. And one person that everything what he did could be his journalism, in his writing, in his teaching. He paid a lot of attention to detail. And especially, finally, he had a kind of a heart for the type of things that he was doing. He always brought his heart and soul. He understood the bigger mission, why I'm doing. It may be a little contribution I'm doing, but it will help to mold a person to achieve greatness. And each time when he saw that, okay, his students were doing much better than him, he was so happy to say that. And then because of these 5 things that he really was so dedicated, committed, and he was doing it, he found again a job to train in one of the leading airlines to train people, and then and to write articles and produce a magazine, and which he totally committed himself and did it. Finally, his contribution today had gone up to a level, all this had happened within 5 years time, it had gone up to a level of him receiving a doctorate last month. and he is Marlon Ferreira, who had got a doctorate, and it's from one of the leading 75 universities in the world. So each time when he was really down, this is a message that I want to share with you. Each time when he was really down in life, and I was talking to him, I was feeling sorry for him, but he had a smile all the time in his face. And something that he was repeatedly saying was, anything can be taken away from me, but only thing that people cannot take away from me is the spirit. So that he had the right positive spirit all the time. And that paved the way for him to achieve success. So the learning what I have here is the spirit what you seek is the spirit what you create. The spirit what you seek is the spirit what you create. So we are facing tough times. All what is needed with the little ABCDE that I had been discussing in this short period of time, you better have the right spirit. And that spirit will never fall from the skies. You got to develop it within with ABCDE. So the spirit what we seek, when you develop it, when you create it inside, you could face these challenges and then move forward. Okay, Prabhash, any questions to answer?
Yeah, Dhammika, there were few. But
how much
some
time
of
we
those
have?
you have covered during this session. So Dhammika, since we have some time restriction also, one question, Dhammika, which is very important, that's on communication.
Yes.
Right? That is, the companies these days make critical decisions at top level.
Mm-hmm.
They make those decisions in good faith.
Mm.
Their intention in the long-term sustainability of the company and the employees. But these decisions and why do they don't cascade down properly to the lowest levels.
Sorry, I don't cascade down. Right. Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it doesn't
Right.
cascade down. Yeah. So bottom level employees, they have like unwanted uncertainty. What could happen to my job, salary, insecurity, and all that's what it says. And then wrong information goes here and there.
Right.
So what should the senior leaders do in these situations? At the senior level, if you are in a senior level, what should they do? Because they make decisions according to this question. What the question says is, at high level, you make decisions thinking long-term sustainability of the organization as well as the employees. But at top level, they know why they make the decision and all that, not to harm anybody. But the message does not cascade down to the lower levels, maybe to the senior manager level, then to the executive level, and to the supervisor level, especially when it comes, if it's a manufacturing environment. So the operator level people, they don't know why this is happening. So what should the senior leaders do in this scenario?
Okay, a very good question, Prabhash. This is a common question that all the top leaders are facing these days, and you've been a senior HR person, I'm sure, facing this problem. Now, what is needed is everything depends on the culture of the organization, and we got to understand the fact that people play a vital role for the success of the organization. So now, even now, saying that, okay, we are going to downsize is a wrong word to be used, and the right word is, as you all know, the right sizing of an organization. They are again at a crucial moment like this. Whoever had been talking to me, I was telling them, try to keep your staff along with you as long as you could. Because straight away, if you just ask them to go away, it will create a problem. But what is needed is the staff will cooperate with you if you had been having a proper culture, that it is a kind of a give and take. Now, I know of an organization, the culture is so fine and they became the best place to work. Repeatedly, they had been winning the award for 5 years, and I can mention the name, the Primeland. Now, Primeland had been a very successful organization and one of the leading property builders or the property developers here in the country. Now, 5 years they won this award. The staff, they themselves walked up to the management or called the management and said that whatever the cuts, whatever that's going to take place, we are there with you all, because we know the good times you all have been looking after us well. But okay, sales may go down, may have an impact from this crisis, so that, okay, whatever we could, we will. The secret behind that is the culture that's been set in an organization. Have you all communicated right throughout the right thing to the people? And if you had been communicating the right thing to the people, people will believe what you say. So even at a time like this, show the statistic, show what's happening, and say that your good intentions are all the time to protect the organization for the future. And in that light, get them also to understand, contribute. Now, you know, after the tsunami in Japan, you know, the culture is different altogether. They work with a sense of belonging. What did they do? The people, they said that, okay, they have a problem in getting power generated. So what is the problem? Because how did they face this problem? They said that air conditioners, we will fix it at 26 degrees because that is good enough for people to work. Maybe at around about 11 o'clock, if you feel that hot, they will just take the collar button off and they work. So they themselves came out with such initiatives to reduce the electricity bill. So likewise, if you have a proper culture, the people will willingly cooperate with that. If not, what you got to do is communicate in a manner where it gets closer to their hearts and give them a good understanding why we are doing it. Show the true statistics. At the same time, I do not know to what extent organizations will agree with me. If you had been building up enough reserves over the past, the best thing what you can do is, okay, use them to service the staff. And I'll quote you one example here. When Galadari bomb went off in 1995, probably, what happened, none of the staff were being sacked. They had about 700 staff members. And then the general manager, Mr. Chandra Mahotia, senior hotelier, he always had a plan and a reserve built in case of a calamity. At least we got to have a situation where the salaries are being paid. So for good 9 months, they kept on paying the salaries. Their staff were fine, staff, they accepted the problem, they were very fine. They said that, okay, service charge anyway, you can't pay, but they were happy with the salaries. So it's all about the culture, telling the truth and convincing the people to accept it, Prabhash.
Okay, Dhammika, thank you. Yeah, that's, yeah. And other things, of course, you have answered during your presentation itself. Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Dhammika.
Finally, Prabhash, can I have another minute, please?
Yeah? Yes, please.
Yes. Yes. Finally, I just want to end up the session with a very interesting saying. And this is a guy from Japan, Leonardo. He said, "Ichigo ichi-e." You only have one chance. This guy's life was threatened and he was to be murdered at any moment of time. And he always lived this philosophy, you only have one chance. And during that one chance, you do your best. And he said that we only have one life. Every day is unique. Every day goes by. And everything we do on that day will never ever repeat again. Every moment should be cherished. So we are going to a crisis period. So I think this is applicable to us to a greater extent. Every moment we spend, be mindful of what's going on, what's happening. And then, okay, realize that we have one chance to recover and to grow and to build up our nation. So think like that. And I really want to end up with one powerful saying again, which I was listening to Deepak Chopra recently. And he said a very interesting saying, which has a relevance to our country as well. He said that the country, India, is achieving greatness. And it's almost on its way to be okay next to a superpower. Now, what he said was, he said in his presentation, we are Indians not because we are living in India. India lives in us. Now, I want every Sri Lankan to realize we are a great nation. As I told you at the beginning, we have overcome much more obstacles and in critical scenarios than this. So we have the guts, we have the passion, we have the willpower to do so. And if you look at the history, we had been a great nation. And we, today, for the kind of things what we have done, everybody is commending Sri Lanka. As you know, we are amongst the first 10 countries who had been managing this virus well. And many people who are living overseas, they are expressing their interest to come back, right? And to settle down in Sri Lanka. So that we are a great nation, we are a great country, we are great people. We have a lot of talent in this country. And what I want to realize is at a crucial moment like this, be positive and be proud of our country and always speak with a good feeling about the country. And I say in the process, we should feel proud that we are Sri Lankans, not because we live in Sri Lanka. We got to feel that we are Sri Lankans because Sri Lanka lives in us. Not that because we are living in Sri Lanka, we are Sri Lankans, and Sri Lanka is living in us, therefore we are Sri Lankans. And taking from Deepak Chopra, that's the kind of feeling that we also must develop, and with that, we can move forward. So my humble final request is to stay safe, live with hope for a better tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you again after some time. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhash. Thank you for doing the needful and arranging this.
Thank you very much, Dhammika. Thank you very much. So you talk many things in a very simple way, a practical way. Thanks again and all the very best, Dhammika. So colleagues, I'm sure all of you have at least a few things to go and do immediately. It could be at your home or with your office teams, though most of us work remotely. Hope you have enjoyed the session. Extremely sorry for the technical hiccup that we experienced at the beginning. So this session, we will share this video on glenmore.lk/YouTube and LinkedIn for those who want to listen it again and for those who have missed it. Next week, we will meet you with another distinguished personality, a career consultant, Ajit Jayawardena. He is Ajit Jayawardena. He's a lawyer, he's a writer, he's a counselor, and an eminent speaker. The topic is Vasangaten Vasantayata. Vasangaten Vasantayata. This is a program for the whole family, and it will be in Sinhala. This is a family program and in Sinhala language. So we will share the details in Glenmore Global Facebook page, YouTube, and in LinkedIn. Please get registered. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining with us and have a pleasant day. Stay safe. Thank you.